This is fun.
All right.
My wife's
Audio going.
You know that very well.
You can sit wherever you want. I mean, you can sit up there if you like, or you can sit out here. You're gonna get a presentation. Yeah, I'm doing a presentation here.
We were
You're back already.
Back last night.
You can sit wherever you like.
We were gonna get back.
Decent.
Plane was stuck.
Well, hey, I'll get on the front row.
Yeah, when they apparently the jetway, when they put it, either it moved or something, they couldn't close the door because it was, the jetway was jamming it. They had to get engineering down there in like 30 minutes before they could figure out how to, without
Where we
tearing
gonna
up the
sit?
jetway.
You can sit up there, you can sit down here, just kind of wherever you're comfortable.
I'll come sit.
It's basically, I'll give the presentation, then we'll open up to public comments since we do have a quorum.
We're voting?
Yeah, people want to know.
But we're gonna get started since.
The real
Great
part
effort.
happens, Steve. He's been a Navy pilot for years, retired as a Navy pilot. Then he became a commercial pilot. So he's got these real 2 minutes on. He's very funny, very
We're just ready to get started.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get this thing started there.
Ready?
You want me to sit down there?
You can see wherever you're comfortable.
Okay.
Good stuff.
We've got to ease you back in, get you in the nice comfortable chairs for now. The vacation from the vacation. Alrighty, morning, it is 10:05 on Saturday, May 9th, 2026. This is the Maritime Safety Committee of Nassau Bay workshop, 1800 Space Park Drive, Nassau Bay, Texas, 77058 in City Council Chambers. Meeting is beginning. We'll do a quick roll call. Ryan Brown's here. Jason Small. Jason Small is here. Jim Stoa.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Audrey Hervey, I believe is a family issue. He's out. And I'm not sure if Jeff is making it or not this morning, but we do have 3 of the 5, so we do have a quorum. In terms of our emeritus members, Chief Cromie is present.
Present?
And that will do it on that end.
Chief George is out of town.
Yeah, Chief George is out of town, Ilias and Paul are both out. All righty, we'll go ahead and get this show on the road. So today's agenda, we'll do introductions, talk about our area of operations and responsibilities, what the city waterways actually consist of. We'll review a few of the city ordinances existing and brand new within the last couple of years. And we'll talk about some areas of concern. We'll do a quick nav rules of the road review, basically ones that are going to pertain to what you see every day in our area. And then we'll hold a public hearing, which we'll open up the floor to comments and discussion at that point. So introductions, committee members. My name is Brian Brown. I'm a licensed master of towing and a second mate unlimited tonnage upon oceans officer. I've been professionally in the maritime industry for 20 years, 24 if you count the high level of schooling that we had to do. My main focus is on rules and on navigation rules and safety. One of our other members, Jim Stoa. Jim? Yeah.
Right here,
Yeah, and this is Jim Stoa. Jim, just give us a quick 1-2 about yourself.
1, 2, 3, 4. Been boating probably for 50 years, recreational boating. Part of what I've done in the Clear Lake area is many years. I moved here in '84, so I started with doing the Christmas boat lane parade. Did that for about 7 years and got a chance to know the leadership there. Did the hydroplane races during that same time period. I was the chairman of the hydroplane races for 3 or 4 years.
Excellent.
And just been a recreational boater. Owned a sailing club out of South Shore and the Hilton. And sailing, not powerboating, sailing. So it's well funded through a big company called Valley that owns casinos.
Yes.
Well funded.
Awesome. All right. And then Jason, a little bit about yourself.
Sure, Jason Small, lifetime boater and sailor, I guess, and family as well, so big in the sailing community here. Also in the marine industry for a number of years, and I put it that way, so, and been in Nassau Bay
Chief, you want to put one too?
Chief Crummy, Police Department, been here, 7.5 years now, 2018. So, not a big boater, was not a boater before, I probably knew nothing about boats before I got here, but I've learned a whole lot in 7.5 years, especially about the Nassau Bay boating community. So,
Yeah.
We obviously operate during the summertime between Memorial Day and Labor Day, in conjunction with the fire department to be out on the water on Saturdays and Sundays and weekends, and have some law enforcement presence.
So let me add to my resume a little bit. So for the last 7 years, I've been organizing and putting on together a paddling event to raise money for post-traumatic stress disorder. We do all the paddling in Nassau Bay or Lake Nassau. And all the money goes to the city helps me fund it through hotel tax money, and the money goes to Camp Hope for registrations and all that stuff. So we raise a lot of money for them. And we take people up to tours of Camp Hope and do training up there, paddle training, etc.
That event's usually in October, correct?
Yes, in the fall of the year.
Fall. Okay. All right. So our committee's purpose: we were established by council in 2024. We act as an advisory committee for council regarding maritime safety. We serve as a point of contact for citizens to have their concerns heard. We then disseminate information to the public, which is part of what this meeting is. And we provide information to Public Works regarding missing, damaged, or non-functioning aids to navigation. And I believe we've got over 40 various aids to navigation within the city's waterways. We did a huge survey on them last year and got a lot of things replaced. That was a big thing. Jason was instrumental in that. So our area of operations and responsibilities: Cow Bayou, Clear Creek, Clear Lake, which is the northwest corner, Lake Nassau, and the Nassau Bay Peninsula Cove.
Would you go back and go back a little bit on that, please? North, you said Clear Lake, northwest?
The northwest portion, which is essentially by the Hilton. That's what we're considering. It's our waterway, but it is technically the northwest portion of Clear Lake. So if you see over here,
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
I got you.
This is kind of our the zoning that's around here. So a lot of people have questions about the cove. The cove is actually zoned marine residential. So it is, all residential ordinances do apply. The city actually owns the cove. They annexed it back about 25 years or so ago, about 99, 2000, something like that. And then the city regulates that little strip as you come down, that little strip of blue that kind of circles around David Braun Park and the peninsula, is the 50 feet that the city regulates coming off of the white. Then from there is all TGLO state Texas parks. The white portion, the open portion of the creek and the bayous and stuff, that's all regulated and owned by the state.
Regulated by who?
The state. The TGL, Texas Government Land Office, is the primary agent.
I understand about it.
Yeah. So city ordinances are enforced by Nassau Bay PD and then subsequently by the Nassau Bay Municipal Court. There are relevant noise ordinances. We have activities that we do allow, boarding and tubing at certain times. There are several no-wake zones that are already in existence. We'll talk about rafting, and then we'll talk about the new hot topic, which is derelict vessels. So noise must be at or below maximum levels by the time sound reaches the residential property line. Sound does not dissipate as easily over water. Residential noise ordinances apply, as these are residential areas, and that's section 10.5 in the city code. From 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Must be at 55 decibels, and then from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. it drops down to 50 decibels. Activities: water skiing, tubing, towing is permitted in no-wake zones from 7 a.m. to noon every day. PWC, which is personal watercraft, jet skis, operations from sunrise to sunset only. That comes from the state. Kayak launches are available at David Braun Park and on Upper Bay Drive. And public slips are available as well on Upper Bay Drive.
So we have two more. We have two more paddle.
Oh, the Lake Nassau And then where else did we put the other one?
Like Nassau Bay Yacht Club?
Oh, that's right, the yacht club. But that's considered more private than the city.
Well, until you get beyond the waterway.
Well, it gets you on the water, but so that's a private. This is just the city owned. So anyways, the kayak launch on Upper Bay Drive recently got a few upgrades. We added some handrails going all the way down. It used to be wide open. We've added handrails, and we've added non-skid, which will allow you to get up and down that ladder a little more safely, a little slip, because that wood gets very, very slick when it gets wet. You still have plenty of room to launch your kayak and small boat down the left side of the ramp there. No wake zones. Entrance channel to the Peninsula Cove and outside of the channel. A lot of people have been trying to cut around it, thinking that if they only have to apply no wake if they're riding inside beacons. It's that whole area.
Would you point that out on the flag, what you're doing, on the map, what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
that would be helpful.
Yeah, let me sit back here real quick. So over here, you've got the entrance channel, which rides along the north point of the peninsula. There's a lot of people who will come in and they'll ride just in the shallows
Right,
outside.
right.
This whole area is no wake.
So when you
It's not
say,
just within the navigational beacons.
I know, so that gets to be a problem because people do that all the time.
Exactly. And the thing is that if something were to happen to them outside those navigational beacons, their insurance companies would absolutely love to hear it because they ran outside of the marked channel.
But
And as we all know over here, especially when we have a strong low tide event, you can see all the little pilings, posts, debris, old trees, everything, stumps, are all lining that shallow area going north.
So the other day, I am coming home, and I'm
Jim,
by the.
if you don't mind, let's get to the
Okay,
presentation.
go on.
Thank you. So, so the no wake zones are the entrance channel to the Peninsula Cove, as we just talked about. The actual cove itself is all no wake all the way through. The Lake Nassau spillway all the way up through Cow Bayou. So if you come around, pretty much from the water treatment plant, about here or so, all the way up through there, that's all no wake. You're all within 50 feet of residential areas when you go through there, and the west side of that is incredibly, incredibly shallow. When the water goes out, you can see all the little marks that outboards and stuff leave in the mud. And then the 50-foot rule. Headway speed when within 50 feet of another person, vessel, bulkhead, stationary object, or shore. Now, if you're meeting somebody in the creek, you don't have to slow down to do that. This is 50 feet. This is if you're passing somebody who's at anchor or is they're fishing, they're more stationary. But if you're just generally meeting someone, you can continue on at proper speeds. Anchoring and rafting. No rafting within 100 yards of residential property in the cove. No wake buoys in the cove mark the 100-yard line. So if you stay to the east of those buoys, you're within the allotted anchoring area or rafting area, and there's plenty of room. Plenty of room. No more than 6 vessels may raft together. Clusters may not be closer than 100 feet apart. Do not block the waterway or access to slips or marinas. And single anchoring can be done anywhere within the cove, which means you can be close to someone's residential property. Please be respectful of the homeowners there. Derelict vessels. This is kind of our newer hot topic. So what defines a derelict vessel? It's someone who's taking on or has taken on water without effective means to dewater and the boat's been abandoned. Sections of the vessel intended to be water or weather tight and are unsealed for prolonged periods of time. Basically, it's just been neglected and left alone. The vessel is unseaworthy or unsafe to operate. If you are aground or sunk or broken free from your anchor or mooring and you're unable to be moved. You have no effective means of propulsion after 30 days. That 30-day clock starts after the city has given you a written notice. Or you have left your moored, or you've been left moored or anchored not at a private dock or slip and remain unmanned for a period of 48 hours or more. This is brand new. Was just signed into effect back in December. So So basically, you leave your boat at anchor, or if you take advantage of the public slips there, and you don't return to your boat for 48 hours, you're considered at that point to be a derelict vessel, and the city will then begin reaching out to you to get it moved and, possibly issue citations if necessary. So we have a bunch of areas of concern: Peninsula Cove, David Braun Park, Cow Bayou, Clear Creek, Swan Lagoon, Val Harbor, and then Clear Lake itself. So the Cove is zoned residential, as we already spoke. Its residential ordinances do apply. We do have the noise ordinance, 55 decibels when it reaches residential property. No wake through the entrance channel in the entire Cove, as we just discussed. Wake-producing activities such as skiing and wakeboarding are allowed before noon. Rafting, 100 yards from residential property. No pinwheeling. A lot of people will like to just put one engine on the outside vessel, put one engine in gear, and then let it go. You're not technically manning the vessel at that point, and it can be very dangerous. And there's a lot of swimmers that will be present in the Cove. So always be aware of that as you're trying to get to a spot to anchor, that you may be encountering people who are swimming. And all you're going to see a lot of times is just their head bobbing above water, if that. Now, David Braun Park. There's a hard turn at the park near Harbor Drive. It is a blind bend. It is also shallow on the southern half of the turn on that pointway. Kayakers and boarders may be present, and remember you're responsible for your own wake. So if you do encounter kayakers or paddle boaters or someone in a rowboat, remember that 50-foot rule. Slow down to head speed while you meet them or overtake them, and then once you're in the clear, you can come back up to speed. But again, keep in mind that bend is very sharp. You cannot see around it until you're pretty much making the turn. So be very, very careful. Cow Bayou, Clear Creek. There is a no-wake zone, as we discussed, from the treatment plant north to Nassau Road 1. Residential docks and boats line the narrow channel.
Wait, clarify that. No wake zone from the water treatment plant?
Up through Cow Bayou, up to Nassau Road 1.
Correct.
That's along the residential properties along Nassau Bay Drive.
With Webster and Seabrook, and Webster and Nassau Bay.
Yep. Residential docks and boats line that narrow channel. The west side of the bayou, north of the turn towards 270 boat ramp, is extremely shallow. So once you make after you've gone past where you can turn off to go to the 270 bridge, that west side is very, very, very shallow. Do not go west of the dayboards and the buoys. There's numerous pilings on the west side of Clear Creek by the power lines and the 270 boat launch. This is now going into League City's area, but this is just kind of a piece of information. League City Webster area. If you are taking advantage of the launches on 270, if you continue westbound, there are close to the shorelines there are pilings, especially by those power lines. There's also the new kayak launch at 270. This is expected to increase kayak and paddleboat traffic in the area, so please, please, please be alert and be respectful of those kayakers. In Swan Lagoon, Ball Harbor, the northwest part of the lake from Upper Bay Drive along Swan Lagoon is shallow. Stay within the beacons. Val Harbor has several poorly marked old pilings that can be submerged in higher tides. And again, once you come into the canals, the 50-foot rule applies. No wake zone through the canals in there. Clear Lake. In our portion, keep in mind we've got the government dock that's next to the Hilton, the future Margaritaville. So there oftentimes will be boats and barges coming in there to offload or load up equipment for NASA, for testing and things like that. Now, there's also reportedly a marina that's going to be in foreclosure, or is already in foreclosure over there in the Clear Lake area, which can result in less slip space, which can then contribute to our derelict boat problem in the lake, which has the chance to spill into our area. There has been an increase in abandoned and anchored vessels in the lake. The Dead Boat Society has been a huge advocate for getting funding from both the state, county, Harris County, and Galveston County to get this problem addressed. In terms of safety, the U.S. Coast Guard Vessel Safety Check Program. You can go online to the Coast Guard's website request a free vessel safety check that Coast Guard Auxiliary will come out. These are uniformed civilian volunteers. These are not the active duty or reservists. They'll come out, they'll go through a checklist with your boat to make sure you have all the required safety equipment. And if you have everything, they'll issue you a sticker for the year. If you don't have everything, they'll let you know what you're deficient in. A lot of times they'll also include a packet of coupons depending on certain sponsors are active in the program at the time. And that way you can get the proper safety equipment that you need. Boater safety courses, we've been trying to get the local auxiliary flotilla to host one here. They seem to be very hesitant about it. However, they do offer classes over there at their station, which they use the Seabrook Fire Station. So it's not a far drive. The course, I want to say, is like $30 or $35 a head. So not expensive at all. Engine startups. If you have a engine compartment, make sure you put your blower on for about 4 or 5 minutes. Let that space ventilate before you start your motor. Gases can settle, and if you start that engine and the mixture is just right,
Boom.
you can have a very, very rough day. It will cause the boat to explode. So be very careful of that. Trailering. Make sure you are trailering. Make sure you have all of your safety chains, cables. Make sure the boat is properly secured. This last week over there, I believe it was on the southbound side of 146 by the bypass to Port Road. A very expensive boat was being trailered and somehow was separated from its trailer. It snarled traffic up for most of the afternoon, and of course damaged the boat and damaged the truck hauling it too.
And 3 engines.
Yeah,
I mean,
3
like
engines.
new boat.
Yeah, so this was at least $1 million, probably $1 million mistake right there.
Yeah.
So it doesn't take any extra time really to make sure everything is properly secured. Make sure you've got life jackets on board, not just the number of life jackets for the number of people on the boat, but the proper life jackets for the ages of the people. So if you have small children, make sure you have an appropriate life jacket for as many small children of that size on board. And make sure that they're wearing it at all times, and that you're wearing it at least when you're underway. If you stop to anchor to swim, obviously, it's different. Operating near commercial vessels. This one's kind of near and dear to my heart. So this is a Mississippi River size tow. He's got 16 barges, but the principle still applies whether you've got 2 large barges, 1 large barge, a 6-pack of smaller ones. If you cannot see the pilot house, we cannot see you. So keep out of the way. I have definitely had my share of scares over the years. It's probably aged me a little bit faster than I wanted to. But so if you cannot see the pilot house, which is this structure right up here, especially out in the front, they can't see you.
So we're going to be clear about this. This is really not like a Clear Lake issue.
Well, every once in a while it can be,
right.
but it's also a concern if you decide to go out into into Galveston Bay.
Yeah.
And this applies also for ships. If you can't see the bridge of the ship, they can't see you. And don't assume that if you're coming up from behind, we can see you. Because our primary focus, 80% of what I'm doing, I'm looking this way. I do look behind, and I tell all my steersmen, everyone I train, make sure you look behind yourself every once in a while. But things go fast. And just like I'm going to show you in this little video right here, someone decided to do a little bit of wakeboarding, wave jumping. And this was taken, I want to say this was taken on the Cumberland, from what I can gather. But anyways, this was the starboard side aft-looking camera on a boat. And if you look back there, you can see jet ski jumps the wake.
Yeah. Yep.
Loses control.
Yep.
Right into that. So be very, very careful of what's going on. And I can guarantee you, the towboat had no idea that guy was even coming. If you're moving fast, you're coming up like that. So be careful when you decide to do things like wakeboard, jump wakes, things like that. we're gonna get into a quick nav rules review. This is the stuff that's kind of near and dear to my heart. I'm a big proponent of the nav rules. Because this applies to everybody, whether you're a first-time boater or you've been out on the water for 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, it applies to everybody. It doesn't matter if you're commercially licensed or if you're a recreational boater, everybody is expected to adhere to these rules. You have two sets of rules. You've got the international, which we're not going to need to worry about dealing with. We deal with the inland set. So we'll have the application. These rules apply to all vessels on the inland waters of the United States and to vessels of the U.S. on the Canadian waters of the Great Lakes, to the extent there's no conflict with Canadian law. We're a long ways from Canada and the Great Lakes, so we don't have to worry about that half. But we do have to worry about the top part, inland waters of the United States. So these rules apply to everybody, whether you've got a paddle boat, jet ski, cuddy cabin, cigar boat, commercial vessel, what have you. So rules and responsibility. A, nothing in these rules shall exonerate any vessel, the owner, master, or crew thereof, from the consequences of any neglect to comply with these rules, or of the neglect of any precaution which may be required by the ordinary practice of seamen or by special circumstances of the case. Basically, if everyone on that boat that is operating either as a lookout, running the vessel, if you own the boat and you've loaned it out to your friend, or if you're leasing a boat from one of these other companies and something happens, the owner is responsible, the person operating the boat is responsible, and anyone who's been tagged as crew can also be responsible if their duties overlap with something that was not adhered to. This is the basis for a lot of our maritime law as to who's responsible. So, in construing and complying with the rules, due regard shall be had to all dangers of navigation and collision, and to any special circumstances, including limitations of the vessels involved, which may make a departure from the rules necessary to avoid immediate danger. Basically, for this, to easily break it down for what's going to apply to us, you've got to be aware of what's going on around you at all times. You need to know your boat. Last year we had a couple of folks who had this very nice boat. It looked like they might have just bought it. I want to say it had a fly bridge. It was a 2-deck fly bridge. It was in the cove. Good sized boat. Supposedly he slipped anchor, but there's plenty of video of them almost backing into people. I think they even at one point collided with somebody. They just did not know their boat. And you need to know what limitations are of your vessel. You need to know what your boat can and can't do. So lookout. Every vessel shall at all times maintain a proper lookout by sight and hearing, as well as by all available means appropriate in the prevailing circumstances and conditions, so as to make a full appraisal of the situation and the risk of collision. This doesn't mean when we're only underway. This is at all times. And shall is compulsory. You must do this. You must comply with this rule. So if you're sitting at anchor, if you're rafted up, your music is too loud and you cannot hear a danger signal from a boat that's maybe he's lost control of his vessel, he's not throttling down for whatever reason, and you can't hear it, you're not maintaining the proper lookout. So even when you're out there having fun, and plenty of fun to be had, you need to be able to keep your head on a swivel and hear and see everything that's going on. Safe speed. Every vessel shall at all times proceed at a safe speed so that she can take proper and effective action to avoid collision and be stopped within a distance appropriate to the prevailing circumstances and conditions. So the state of visibility is going to be a huge factor. If it's raining really hard or if it's foggy and you can't see, slow it down a little bit. Traffic density. You're coming into an area where there's a lot of boats. Be aware of that. You may need to slow down to give yourself time to make an assessment of the situation. If there's rough weather conditions, that needs to be taken into account. Draft in relation to the available depth of water. So if you are in deep water, your boat's going to handle as it's intended to, as it's designed. As we get into shallower and shallower water, you start running into friction or lack of friction issues. And backing down and stopping, it's going to take you longer to stop because now you're starting to basically like playing air hockey. And you're just going to coast over the mud. Also, your turning radius is going to greatly increase in shallower water. Keep you guys be aware of that. Also, at night, if there's any background lights, you have to keep that into account too. Background lights can get into the way of your navigation lights. They can be confused. A number of years ago, I was up there in New York and Connecticut, and you come into Mamaroneck Harbor, and as you're coming in, you'll see a red light.
Where's that at?
Mamaroneck, it's right there on the border of New York and Connecticut.
Okay.
As you're coming in, and I'm just using this as an example, as
Hudson
you're
River?
coming in, there's a red light. And after a little while, that light turns green. And it's green for about a minute or so, and then it turns yellow for a few seconds. And then it goes back to red. And you can use that as a navigational aid, but it can be very confusing if you don't know what you're looking at. Suddenly you're seeing a red light, then you're seeing a green light, and it can get lost in the background. And it can be confusing if you're seeing another boat coming outbound because it's right in line with the channel.
Sure.
So background lights, if you have underglow or cabin lights on while you're driving at night, that can also inhibit your ability to see other lights, especially lights that are a little more dim. If they're like, say, battery-operated lights on a small boat. If your boat is equipped with radar, you need to know how to use it. You need to know the characteristics, its efficiencies, and its limitations. You need to know and take into account any constraints that are imposed by the radar range scale that's in use. If you're using radar in, say, Party Cove, or formerly Party Cove, not just the Cove, you don't want to have it set on a mile range. You're not going to get a good, clear picture. You want to have it quarter mile. And likewise, if you're running out in Galveston Bay, you may want to bump your radar out a little bit more to be able to see a little further ahead. Risk of collision. Every vessel shall use all available means appropriate to the prevailing circumstances and conditions to determine if risk of collision exists. If there's any doubt that such risk exists, it shall be deemed to exist. So if you're not sure, you assume that there's risk. Proper use shall be made of radar equipment if fitted and operational. Again, if you have a radar and it works, you need to know how to use it. You need to be using it, including long-range scanning to obtain early warning of risk of collision, radar plotting or equivalent systematic observation of detected objects. You're not going to be sitting there doing a radar plot. It's not practical. That's but there are other things you can use if your radar is equipped with electronic bearing lines and range markers, little range circles. Bump them out. You can create guard zones that tell you if there's an object in this zone, I need to maneuver. If it's not in the zone, I don't need to worry about it. However, assumptions shall not be made on the basis of scanty information, especially scanty radar information. So if your radar is not working right, don't make an assumption based on what you think the radar might be saying. So actions to avoid collision. Any action taken to avoid collision shall, if the circumstances of the case admit, be positive, made in ample time, and with due regard to the observance of good seamanship. Any alteration of course or speed to avoid collision shall, if the circumstances of the case admit, be large enough to be readily apparent to another vessel observing visually or by radar. A succession of small alterations of course or speed should be avoided. So make it apparent. As I tell my trainees, if you're going to turn, turn. Let them see that you're maneuvering out of the way. Don't little course, little bit. It gets confusing, the other person's not picking up on it.
That sounds like a jet skier around here.
Yeah. So now, if necessary to avoid collision or allow more time to assess the situation, a vessel shall slacken her speed or take all the way off by stopping or reversing her means of propulsion. There's nothing wrong with slowing down so you can get a better idea of what's going on coming up. And a lot of times, just by slowing down, you allow whatever situation's happening in front of you to dissipate. Now, maneuvering and warning signals. This is going to apply to that sharp bend over there by David Braun. It's considered a blind bend. So, Rule 34E. A vessel nearing a bend or an area of a channel or fairway where other vessels may be obscured by an intervening obstruction shall sound one prolonged blast.
Right.
One prolonged blast is 4 to 6 seconds. Short blasts are 1 to 3, prolongs 4 to 6. This signal shall be answered with a prolonged blast by any approaching vessel that may be within hearing around the bend or behind an intervening obstruction. So if one person's eastbound, one person's westbound, and they hear the beep of the horn, they should sound it in kind. Now, a lot of times it's kind of hard to hear over the sound, over the noise of the engines and whatnot. But at the very least, you're covered if you make the appropriate signal. All right. And that concludes the presentation portion of things. We'll now engage in a public hearing. Pull up all our proper verbiage here. Okay. Statement of no more than 3 minutes may be made on items of relevance to the Maritime Safety Committee. There will be no yielding of time to another person. State law prohibits the Maritime Safety Committee chairman and members of the Maritime Safety Committee from commenting on any statement or engaging in dialogue without an appropriate agenda item being posted in accordance with Texas Open Meetings Law. Comments should be directed to the entire committee, not individual members. Engaging in verbal attacks or comments intended to insult, abuse, malign, or slander any individual shall be cause for termination of time privileges and removal from the meeting room. Good thing is we can have an open discussion back and forth because the agenda topic is the presentation. So that covers pretty much everything. So if anyone would like to make public comments, let's go.
Welcome.
Thank you. So is this, I guess, the usual turnout, or is this a group?
So this is actually just kind of a specialized workshop that we're holding. We tried to hold this on the weekend. Usually our meetings are held every 6 weeks on Wednesdays. Our actual next meeting will be this coming Wednesday. We have a little usually it would have been this past Wednesday, but thanks to technology, our city secretary didn't receive the email. I sent the email out, but it didn't hit her inbox apparently. So we didn't have the agenda posted in time, and because there's a certain amount of time you have to have in between the posting and the meeting, we had to push it off a week.
So to answer your question, yes.
Yes.
This is typical.
But this is a typical turnout. We'll usually have a couple other members, and we'll have members of city staff here as well.
Okay.
And it's usually our meetings are done on Wednesday afternoons at 4 o'clock.
Okay. In here?
Yeah, right here. Yes, Jim.
So I'll just say, I took the safety course about a year ago, and it is a great course. So you just keep after them to bring it in here. So I think it's mandatory for anybody born 1993
or something like
I think it's
like
83.
that earlier.
I think the safety course is 1983.
I think you have
I thought it was in the
born
90s,
after a certain
but
date.
whatever that is, I wasn't required, but I thought, you know what, we're back in Nassau now, eventually I'm gonna get a boat, I'm gonna learn more. I've got a commercial driver's license that I had for 30 years. I think I told you, when you drive big vehicles, they stop, right? And they turn, and a boat's different, so I needed to get my head around, what that was. So keep after them for that, bringing that course in here, because I think it'd be really good.
Yeah. So we're trying to get them to come in. Their big worry is that they don't want to do a course outside of their normal spot if they're not going to have the attendance. And I think we can fill a room with 15 to 20.
It's all day.
Yeah, it's an 8 hour course, it's a fantastic, great course.
This is the one that's at the Seaford Fire Station?
Yep.
Yeah,
It's a Coast Guard auxiliary, right?
Yep, Coast Guard.
I've been pressing our flotilla commander, and so I'm a member of that flotilla. I've been pushing them to come over this way to do it, and they just don't seem to want to. I would have to get my instructor certifications back and all that. I've kind of been somewhat inactive with that unit for a while.
If you put something out to the city that just, maybe like, who would be interested? See if we can get a big enough list together.
Yeah.
I do it again, honestly.
I think our other big challenge right now too would be is along the lines of,
It's a great course.
we're getting into the summertime, so courses are a little harder to get filled, especially because everyone's out wanting to do things on the weekends, and, between sports, and just wanting to be out on the boat on the weekend, so they don't want to take a day to do that. It seems to be more of a wintertime activity.
It's also been, unfortunately, it's been the Coast Guard's been defunded for a while too. So
Yeah.
That's been a problem.
Well, the auxiliary is able to function a little, like, public education courses and things, they can still run those. Their ability to patrol right now is kind of limited,
Right.
because they can't get funding orders. Because the auxiliary is, it's civilians, and if you have a boat, you can offer it up as an operational facility. You can get reimbursed for your fuel and maintenance. Yes.
I was curious mainly about the dead boats, and how long do we let them sort of drift around and blow to the other side and then our side? Like, when do we pull them out? Like, what's the process, and how long do you give a dead boat just to float?
So city ordinance is 48 hours of no presence on the vessel.
Right.
With that said, if it's completely broken free right away, I believe the city's got a little bit more chieftain time.
Yeah, so part of the problem with the derelict boats is, I'll compare it to somebody's abandoning their vehicle on a street.
Okay.
We contact one of our wreckers that are, and the wreckers that we use for our impoundment of vehicles, we have certain wrecker companies in the area. Every year they have to come in, they have to register with us. Each and every one of their wreckers has to be inspected. So there's probably about 3 or 4 days where during that time, if you see wrecker company, we may have 12 wreckers out back that one of our officers is having to inspect each and every wrecker before them. So we contract with them. We don't contract with them, but we utilize them. We contact them. They come and they will pick up the car. They will impound it at their lot. They will start the process of tracking down the owner, sending registered letters, etc.
Right.
And at a certain time period, if they don't get any response, they can file for a salvage title. They can turn around, they can sell that car, they can scrap it for metal or whatever. Different with the boats. We don't, the towboat companies are not going to come out and take that boat on without some kind of payment. Somebody's going to have to pay them, because by the time it gets to that point, there's no engines, there's nothing left of value on the boat. All the electronics have been pulled out. It's basically a fiberglass shell. You can't recycle fiberglass for the. I mean, I guess you can, but it's not going to pay the cost of what they're having to. So that's part of the problem is the cost of, and it's not just us here in Nassau Bay. It's all of the entities that are dealing with it is having the cost of getting those boats out of there. And I know that there's a lot of work going on with the GLO. We had 2 boats that were off over here in the creek off of Harbor Drive Peninsula last December before last. We were working with the GLO. The GLO will come out and will tag those boats, put a tag on the boat, notifying that it's been identified as derelict, and they have 20 days for any kind of response. If they don't, then the GLO can send us a letter identifying that the boat is officially declared derelict by the state. And then there's now you can do something with it. At that time, we were working with Galveston County. They had a grant program for people to bring their boats in and basically abandon them with the county to be crushed. But we had to wait that 20 days, and I'll just say that the 20 days didn't want to be had here, so the city went ahead and contracted with a marina or marine operation to remove those boats, tow them, remove them, store them for 20 days. We had to send out letters trying to track down the owners, and it's very difficult because the ownership is not.
Understood, it's marked off. or
Yeah,
whatever.
it's not like you buy a car from somebody and it goes into a database. Bottom line is, we ended up spending $20,000 per boat.
I know,
That
it's
was
pricey.
not included in.
Pricey.
That was not part of that year's budget.
Right,
So that's $40,000 out of the city's pocket just to get 2 boats out of here. We had another one last year, and dealing with the boats because I don't want my officers tied up tracking it. So I took the case and I spent about a month and a half trying to track down the owner of the boat. Luckily, there were some things that happened here. The boat was over by the marina. Kathy Huff came in and told me that hey, this boat was here. She was able to give us information of where the gentleman who had the boat was living here in town.
Yeah.
Now, there was no registration attached to him, but through that we were able to cite him. And just about a month ago, he came into court at a jury trial. He was found guilty of abandoned boat, and he was fined. He was fined the maximum fine that they could give him at the time, which is $500. So again,
did he move the boat?
I'm sorry.
Did he haul it off?
He moved it. Well, he brought in 3 other boats to the cove one night. So there were 4 boats in the cove one night. The chief of police was out here at 12:30 in the morning, helping deal with that. And we were working with him because it was a low tide. Gave him some days, and finally got to the point where I met him at his house. And here's your first citation, because the statute or the ordinance says each and every day is a separate violation. So he can be issued a citation each and every day. The boats were removed by that evening. So we got his attention. Like I said, we had a court date. He was found guilty. We had another one here about 3 weeks ago over behind off of
Right north of the peninsula, I forget the street, yeah.
yeah off
Baycrest, I think,
Baycrest and Surf Court and stuff. And the gentleman had a boat, and we were able to deal with that within a couple of days, and made contact with the gentleman, and he got the boat towed out himself. Part of the problem is that we're starting to see this being a little bit more active about these abandoned boats. Is Lake City enacted an ordinance for their marinas over there, the slips, and they call it liveaboards. The people that are they live on their boat as their home. And Lake City enacted an ordinance that was pretty heavy-handed. I know the ordinance is still in effect, and they've backed off on enforcing it because they're going to go back and revisit it, and they're going to kind of tweak it a little bit. But part of their problem is because they're going after the liveaboards in the marina operations. The marinas are now getting heavy-handed to the slips, the renters, the lessees that are not doing what they're supposed to, and they're not up to date on it, and they're kicking them out, and they've got no place to go. So that's why we're starting to see, in my opinion, we're starting to see more of these derelict boats out, and just anchored off in the Clear Lake or the creek, and things like that. So it comes down to the huge problem of financial abilities to take care of these things. I know I've talked to Dennis Paul, and there was a bill this past legislative some things. I know Jim's been involved with the Dead Boat Society, and it comes down to a funding issue. And I was talking to Dennis Paul about that, and I know he's a little busy right now with campaigning, but he told me the next legislative session he's going to push a little bit harder to see about what we can do about the state can do about getting some funding to do something to put some teeth in to getting these boats out of the water or dealing with the owners. The huge problem is, somebody buys a boat or has a boat for 20 years. Now they sell it to me. I don't go change the boat, title or anything like that. And then they sell it to somebody else, and the last one that I was trying to track down, I personally spent probably 3 or 4 days just calling, places trying to identify owners, and I was able to identify owners. Yeah, I had that boat, but I sold it to so and so. Let me see if I can find you the information. I sold it to Bob, and his number is, and call Bob, and Bob says, yeah, I got rid of it, and I sold it to Jim. And couple that was over in Seabrook, was the last place, but we didn't have their names. And ended up tracking the boat down to at one point in time in lazy or something, marina and recreational down at Palacios. And I called down there and I talked to, I was able to get a hold of the manager down there, and she's like, "Yeah, I know who you're talking about." And she had actual names. We were able to identify that they had moved to Seabrook. We weren't able to find them in Seabrook, and that's when Kathy Huff came in with everybody. So there's a lot of investigating, just trying to track down ownership before we can actually do something. So
That's
that's a big, comes down to there's not a there, in my opinion, there needs to be a harder or a heavier stance on ownership transitions and registering those. But there needs
traceable
to be,
title.
actual titles, but there there needs to be some funding. The state's got to do something, to do some funding. Now, if there's a boat out there that's abandoned and it's leaking fluids or biohazards or something, then GLO is on it, just like that. But they'll contain it, they'll clean it up, but they're not going to take that boat out.
So, do you ever get funds from the county, or is that not a thing that they do?
So the county has some funds that they're investing, but they've identified, but right now they've only got like enough to take care of 10 boats total for the entire county.
Oh, Paris?
Yeah.
Oh.
Precinct 2, right?
Yeah, that's out of the commission. I think each commissioner has like I wouldn't say a slush fund, so to speak, but it's basically they can spend on projects.
Yeah, and I apologize, maybe not the whole county, but precinct 2 has.
No,
Right.
but even still, I mean, they need more, obviously.
They have a program to clean up trash too.
Yeah, and it's all part of the same program and stuff. But some of that funding for the boats is, again, for people bring their derelict boats from their house, bring it here, we'll take care of it, we'll crush it.
Right.
They'll sign off on it, and they'll take care of
That's a
disposing of it.
wonderful thing to have.
Oh, that's the best if you can get people to cooperate. Look, I've got this boat, it's been sitting in my yard for 5 years. And, I bought it, I thought I was going to fix it up, and now I don't have the funds. And, people hate to be out that money, but if they can take it somewhere that the county has a program where they can dispose of it, crush it up and put it in a dumpster and send it to a landfill. That helps from it. But there are other people that take it out there in the middle of the night, anchor it, and they're gone.
That is.
And then it can eventually become our problem, it blows it over our way.
Well, the cities as a group ever considered coming together and paying for a service, and they all share that cost, and then every boat gets hauled off, and they all pay a fair piece?
Not that I know of, not yet. I know Mayor Long over in Lake City at one time was talking to the other cities about doing that. Problem is you're gonna have one city. I'll use Nassau Bay for example. We up until 2 years ago, I've been here 7.5 years. For the first 5 years I was here, we had no problem with abandoned boats or derelict boats. I'm just surmising that some of the cities are going to say, "Why am I going to put money into this pot when it's going to benefit Lake City percentage-wise more than it's going to benefit my city?"
Well, it's kind of like insurance in case.
I'm not disagreeing with you or anything like that. That's for these people on this side of City Hall to make those decisions. The people that sit up here, I'm not saying it's not something that's feasible. I'm just from the aspect of being in city government. I see
understand.
some, Lakeview, PD, El Lago and all of there. They probably don't have as much of a problem as we do.
Right.
So why am I gonna put money into the pot to help everybody when it's not really my, it's not a big percentage problem for me as a city official. I can see it being looked at, formalizing, coming to fruition. It would be years down the road before it just in my opinion.
It's probably a problem better addressed by the respective counties than it is by local municipalities.
At the county level rather than the city.
I would say it's probably going to be more effective.
Tommy just mentioned I'm part of the Dead Boat Society, so you're welcome to come to our meetings and learn a lot.
I have enough meetings.
I mean,
I just find this interesting because it's so hard to deal with.
It's the operations of the boats. Nobody gets a driver's license for a boat. You have to have a driver's license to operate, a car on the
We
street.
should make that a rule.
There's again, talking to the legislature, there's no pilot's license for a boat.
Right.
So anyway, talking about, Larry was talking about, the, boating safety course being required. There's no registration, there's no database to show, anybody who's taken that course that can operate a boat, that the state puts together.
You're
So,
supposed to keep your card on you.
Yeah. You're supposed to have your card on you.
So it's on
right?
the honor system, basically.
Yeah, I can tell you how many people that officers stop driving a car that don't have their driver's license on them. You'd be surprised the number of people that don't. Now, we have a database where you give us your name, your date of birth, we can put it in the system, we can pull that up. We can't do that with, so again, it's just a, there's some holes in the theories, and the state legislature has to, close those up, and of course, they've got things that they feel are much more important up at the state level. So, but I'm continuing to talk with Dennis Paul, and we'll see what happens next legislature.
I'm grateful because it's so pricey to pull them out. I mean, it just,
they're
when
not
I
worth
found out
anything.
the price to pull out the dead boat, like, I was flabbergasted, honestly. And that's a lot of money that we're burning, so.
Yeah, and like I said, the record system for automobiles, there's a turnaround, there's some kind of reimbursement for those record companies to get invested, because even if they scrap that, just for metal,
Yeah.
there's an amount there.
So they wanna do it.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So here's a couple bits of information.
Yeah,
So
Jim, what you
one
got?
of the good things that happened is a lot of the liveaboards, because of the pressure of the Dead Boat Society, some of the legal liveaboards, and there are some, they've moved on to Galveston County because of the pressure around here. And the same thing is some of these party boat people that used to come to the party cove have now gone elsewhere because they know they'll get in trouble. So they've moved on to either Galveston or offshore in the bay.
Yeah, so the operations in the cove, one of the things that the city, that we have now off of Leeward, there were some townhomes that were taken through the FEMA grants by the city. The city owns the property over there on Leeward now. Homes cannot be rebuilt, the property cannot be rebuilt because it was residual flooding in that area. Because of that, we have a marine operations little house that's on wheels over there on a slab, and we utilize that. That's where our boat is stored over off.
I've seen it over there.
I'm sorry.
Yes. I've
Yeah.
seen it.
And we have the little marine operations safety house that's used for our officers in the fire department when we go out there on the weekends and stuff. And what we've done is we've shared the entry code to that house to all of the local marine operations, the county, the U.S. Coast Guard, Parks and Wildlife, anybody that's involved. We've shared it because when they're out on the water, they've got to go to one of these restaurants or someplace to take a break or something. So we've shared it with them that they can come in here and utilize ours for breaks. And what that does is it brings more law enforcement presence through the code. And there's some of those operations that will come in, and as they come in or they go out, they can take care of some of their numbers that they need for the day right here in the code. So that's been helpful over the last several years. In fact, we had some bulkhead work done just recently in the last several months, and we had to move all that stuff out of the house and everything out of there. And we've actually had a couple of the marine operations call, "Where's the house? What's going on?" And we've told them that it will be back during the summer operations, and it's just temporary. There was some repairs going on and stuff. So that's become popular with the other law enforcement agencies to bring in some additional presence.
I love that, yeah.
So
Any other questions, comments, or anything?
just real quickly, I can get some numbers from last year. Our operations on the marine, and this is just on the law enforcement side. We had a total of 84 hours during the summer. Personnel out on the water. Now I know the fire
84?
department 84, and that includes we have a number of days that because of weather and things like that we were not out on the water. Now I know the fire department has their numbers are of hours, man hours that they have are a lot more because they get out there to get the boat ready. Then our guys go on the boat and they bring it back, they clean it up and stuff like that. We share with the fire department. The fire department actually works with us on the weekends to operate the boat because I personally as chief, don't have enough personnel to have somebody on
Right.
the boat operating the boat, have somebody on the boat for enforcement. So the pilots that are from the fire department that operate the boat for us, and then we'll have an officer on the boat for enforcement purposes. You know, checking for safety violations, those type of things. So, but last year, we had 3 assists, 1 medical call, 11 contacts for information. We had 103 safety checks, 26 noise complaints, 9 WIC violation complaints. So we had 153 total contacts over that time. 1 citation was written. There was 29 warnings. We had 1 rescue in 84 hours. And that's between Memorial Day and Labor Day. So
Oh, just over the summer,
Just
not
that
the year.
3 months.
no, that's
three months
just
in.
that's just the summertime operation.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's active out there, and you know, we tried. We had 1 citation and a number of warnings. We tried to gain compliance more than just, you know, hey, do us a favor, you know, cut down the music or whatever the case. And the problem is that when you have all the boats out there, trying to get it does get a little bit loud out there. I don't think it gets as excessive as some people want to think, but it's hard to disseminate, you know, identify one boat that's a violator rather than the accumulation of all
Right.
the noise off the water. And Brian was talking about the noise ordinance, 55 decibels is.
What is that noise
So,
level? What would that
yes.
be like?
So let me give you an example. While we were here in the meeting, I turned on my noise, my decibel meter on my phone. So the average volume decibels in this meeting while we were talking earlier was 55 decibels. We maxed out at 72 at one point.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
So
it's not very loud.
no.
But again, that's
No.
also when that sound reaches the residential property.
Oh, it doesn't travel over the water.
But traveling over water, it doesn't have anything to absorb it.
If you were in the park, the trees, the grass would absorb that sound.
Mm.
Water, noise volume, the wavelengths just bounce off the water and they accumulate together. So it seems louder, and it's probably not that it seems louder. It probably is louder, but it's not one source of noise.
Right. Makes sense.
So it's difficult for the officers to get out there, start writing
You're
citations.
the noisy one.
Yeah. We are a boating community. We want boats to come here, and we don't want them to inhibit or restrict or bother our residences. So it's a juggling act for us in law enforcement to try to deal with what might be perceived as a noise violation, and it's just it's a weekend.
Right.
It's a weekend day.
And sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was also curious about drinking alcohol. Like, you are not allowed to drink alcohol and drive, obviously, a boat, I would assume. But is there a level that's higher than driving a car that they allow you to operate?
No, intoxication level, no, it's the
It's
same.
the same?
Boating under the influence.
Because
is-
I've seen
And the
boats
thing is,
drive by.
when their boats are out here and just they're not operating, they're just anchored,
Yes,
and everybody's drinking. There's it's not a violation. It's no different than
until
if
they
you had your
start
car
driving.
in the parking lot and everybody was sitting in the car and drinking.
Yeah,
You got to be operating the vessel,
okay,
either intoxicated or operating while consuming and stuff
Okay.
like that. So
understood, okay.
and we did have one last year right before the season. We had was that the wreck on the boat the boat that wrecked into
Oh, it went up in the tree.
June last year or something like that?
yeah, it was right before boating.
It went up in the tree.
Well, we
at
called
Ron
those,
Park.
yeah. Parks and Wildlife took over that investigation. We called them out because they're the experts in boating accidents and investigating. If we had a fatality accident here in town with, on the streets with a car, we would go out and work that accident, but we would call in either the sheriff's department or precinct 2 because they have a little bit more expertise. We don't have that happening enough to have those reconstruction experts and stuff. Which in fact we did when we had the elderly couple that ran the stop sign over here.
By the Marriott.
We called them in. Parks and Wildlife came in and worked that accident with that boat, and they did file a DWI charge,
Mhm.
or BWI charge, boating while intoxicated,
Yeah.
on the gentleman that was operating pretty serious, but they have expertise because we were out there with them, and I was actually out there with them while they were working. They're downloading information off of electronics from the boat, and things like that, so they get GPS locations and speeds and stuff like that. Those are the type of things that we just don't have enough time, experience or the training for. And people say, well, why don't you send your officers to training? Well, how often does it happen in Nassau Bay? Is it worth it, to spend the money for training to send an officer for, how many officers do I send out for something that we may have every 7 years?
Yeah.
That's why we work with our partners in the other agencies. That's their expertise, parks and wildlife, to deal with that.
That makes
So we
sense.
call them in and they handle it. But I know they did file a DWI charge on that case.
So my boat was in the same marina being fixed a couple months later, and those people spent $47,000 getting that boat fixed up. It went high and dry inside that park.
I wonder how much if the BWI was involved. Or
Oh, that's a good question. That's a good question.
I'd like to know how much the wrecker system that they had to use to get that boat out of there, because they had 2 crane wreckers.
It was in the tree resting, right?
It
Like
was
up in the
it
tree.
was amazing where it was.
Yeah.
Gotta pass
Yeah.
rip wrap and everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was up on the. There's some gravel that our parks and our streets departments over on the backside of there where there's concrete gravel.
Yes, I've seen it.
And it's overgrown and stuff, but they were up on top. It had to be 12 feet high up
Yep.
there, and they had that boat was at least 15 feet from the water. They
Yes.
obviously a good speed. And I know there was one gentleman that had an injury. I think it was minor. They ended up going to the hospital. But yeah, where that boat, when they called and let me know, and the next day when I came to work, I went out there first thing, and I was just like, it was amazing to me where the boat was,
Mhm.
that it made it that far.
Yeah.
But
Impressive.
So on the same subject, it happened in 2010, where a boating accident happened in Clear Creek in the League City Nature Center. The same similar situation happened, except there were 3 people in the boat. There was a guy that was driving, they called him a Texas billionaire or whatever, a road contractor. And an 84-year-old woman as a guest on the boat and her child. They went into the League City Nature Center. Same kind of thing you're talking about. I got a picture of the boat being high and dry. The woman was ejected out of the boat and killed. They did a life flight to the hospital. The son survived. There were charges against boating while intoxicated. So right in that same waterway, we've got all these boats coming and going it's so dangerous.
Right.
yeah, it's no different than the streets. I mean,
Right.
if everybody does what they're supposed to, we're all good. But we all know that there are people that don't do what they're supposed to, and that's
Right.
Brian, can you go back to this picture of the zone again? Yeah, the zone.
Just a quick heads up, I've got a hard stop in a couple minutes.
Oh yeah, you got.
Yeah, I got it.
I just real quick, Brian was pointing out, our 50-foot off. This is the creek coming through here. This is what we actually ordinanced in. So our enforcement purposes are difficult because a lot of that creek is not just Nassau Bay. It's other agencies, League City, and actually when you get over to League City side, now we're actually talking about we're in Harris County. The other side of the creek is in Galveston County, so we've got 2 different counties involved. So we will go out there and patrol, but I know there's been some questions about why we don't do more enforcement and a little bit harder action. I think the creek isn't ours. I mean, we don't have full jurisdiction over that creek. So it's a multi-agency thing again.
But don't we have it on our side? We have one.
We have a 50-foot
50-foot.
strip.
We have 50 foot right here.
Right.
I know Brian's got to get out of here. I'm more than happy to sit around and chat if you guys have more questions.
So real
But I know
quick, if I
Brian's
could,
gonna get out of here.
since this isn't still a formal meeting, I do need a motion to adjourn real quick.
So we didn't go over our comments.
Right.
We didn't go over the comments about us.
So these are koozies that we're going to be handing out off of our boat during the summertime
Thank you.
to those who are out there.
Thank you.
Just kind of, if you got a couple of rules, not rules, but requests on the other side.
That's cool.
Awesome.
Those will be handed out.
So
To
I got a
the
motion real quick.
We didn't have our public comments.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, this was this whole.
I mean, no.
Oh, you're talking about
committee
committee member comments. That wasn't agenda
Not on
for this.
the
We're gonna have our meeting. We have our meeting on Wednesday. And we'll have all our comments on
Okay.
Wednesday. Yeah. We have a regular.
Did you guys know these people? How did they get here? Do you know? Did you ever talk to them?
No.
I didn't recognize them.
Anyways, real quick, we do have a motion to adjourn. Jim, I need a second from you.
Okay.
Okay? All in favor, motion's adjourned.
Thank you guys.
All in at
Thank you all
11:12.
for your time.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Thanks for
everybody.
coming.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Good.
Good seeing
It's
you.
very, very good.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Yeah, big trucks, they go stop.
Yeah,
First.
Boats, no.
Brian, I will not be here Wednesday.
You are
I
so
wasn't gonna be here last Wednesday, this Wednesday I'm speaking at a conference up in Bernie, Texas.